more than any other patriot group in the entire state. Otter Tail County patriots are now being banned from participating in their own convention. So we'll discuss the story and details surrounding that. And then we'll be discussing David Hand. Rhino David Hand is floating a run for governor. So maybe we can check out davidhand.com.
Do it.
We can see exactly what types of things that David Hand is pushing for his governor platform. So we'll talk about him and maybe some others who are talking about getting into the governor's race. I see that we got Tucker 91, Napkin 8, Wings, and Truth Wins in Minnesota all in the comments.
Oh, I like that handle. Truth Wins in Minnesota. That's a good one.
Yep. Appreciate all you guys tuning in. Make sure to leave a Rumble rant if you want to make sure your comment is read or if you have a question you want to make sure we address.
All right. This is also brought to you by Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give my good friend Warren a call at 612-419-7453. Damn good real estate agent who believes the same things that you and I believe in. If you're buying a home, give the good guys at John Galt Mortgage a chance at financing that home. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com or you can check out their Facebook or X account for great memes. Top-notch meme game for a company. I'm just so impressed that they do political memes. It's great to see that. And we're also brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Running dials is always Deep State Dawson there. Dawson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I had a sandwich for lunch today instead of the last, 4 days having tacos.
Yeah, well, we still got to finish those tacos off,
We
buddy.
do.
You know, right before we went on air, Jesse goes, Dawson, you watch a little WWE. Did you see John Cena's turning heel? Like, what show am I on right now? By the way, you see Walter?
Big news.
You see Walter Hudson turn heel?
He turned heel at the CD6 convention. That's when Walter turned heel when he decided to side with Tom Emmer and the globalist Rhino establishment. That's when he turned heel to me.
Okay, well, let's. By the way, we just clipped part from last week or last Tuesday where we broke down all the lies in his video. That's pretty worth watching. All right, let's start.
The best arguments he had. How pathetic was that?
So
Those were the best arguments he had, and it just shows he's willing to lie and try to climb up the ladder.
By the way, I'm getting some comments, like some people that I haven't really chatted with recently, that reached out to me like, "Oh man, I can't believe Walter's literally like turned to the dark side."
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. His people in my circle have known him for a decade. Like, it's really bizarre. It's not actually that bizarre, to be honest with you. This has happened many times. It's just that he was kind of a big name in the liberty movement because he had a radio show and he was very eloquent in what he did. O'Bannon, Walter Crenshaw Hudson for lieutenant governor. That's pretty funny. All right, let's start with this. So I want to talk about government, the size and scope of government here, because, you know, as we talk about Walter Hudson, the guy that basically is acting as if we're bad because we criticize Republicans, because how dare you criticize Republicans, right? Like, you can't possibly, once you're a Republican, you can't do wrong. But clearly you can, because the problem of government is not a Democrat-only problem, although the Democrats offer absolutely no solution to it. I think if there was, let me ask you this question, Jesse. We didn't prepare this. If you said there was one unifying principle to be a Republican and just take away electorally, like beat the Democrats, that would be obvious.
Right.
What would be that unifying principle?
Maybe the Constitution. The Democrats don't have any respect for it, but yeah, that and shrinking the size and scope of government is the general principle to conserve the American government that was founded by our founders. Yeah,
and that second one's where I was going with it, and agree with that. I don't think the first one's against that, though, right? Because if you really believe in the Constitution, the government's too big, right? Oh, Bad Ad Harry's in here. Howdy, Bad Ad Harry. It's been a while. Great listener. Just rarely listen. I'm not offended by people not catching our show live. I mean, not everyone can catch it live. Most people watch it after the fact. So appreciate seeing you guys back. Laser Jim too. Napkin Nate, good to see you. And Tucker 91. And Terry Time. Oh my God, I love you guys so much. That's why I do this show. Honest to God, that's what keeps me coming back. Is our audience is awesome. All right, let's start with this. So speaking of large government, and we should all be unified. If you're not a Democrat, if you're on the Republican side, of course, you know, we have a lot of people that listen to us that are libertarians, right? And maybe even work with the Libertarian Party. I've never been in the Libertarian Party. I consider myself libertarian, like what we call small L libertarian, like my belief system is libertarian. Like you have a right to liberty as long as you're not trampling on someone else's rights. I can't imagine anywhere in my political beliefs that that doesn't exist. I guess maybe the one caveat to that is I would be referring to adults. So a minor should not be able to consent to things like transgender surgery. I guess I think most libertarians would agree with me on that you do need to be the age of an adult before you can make decisions like that. Although I wouldn't be shocked that there was some that don't see it that way, but the left clearly doesn't, right? So, yeah, that's my belief system is you have a right to your liberty. If you want to smoke a joint, you can smoke a joint as long as you're not harming another individual. It's a totally different thing. You get in a vehicle and you cause a collision, right? But if you want to smoke a joint in your home, you have every right to smoke a joint in your home, okay? Safe from government coercion. Same thing with my belief on taxes. You shouldn't have to pay taxes. Taxes is theft. Taxation is complete theft of individuals. The worst one probably being income. Property's up there. You know, if we have to fund government, maybe we do it like the federal government did initially, where you have a lottery, right? But or you have fees for services. A lot of our government runs on fees, but I just don't believe in taxes, okay? And I certainly don't believe in the current tax system. We're not going to solve those issues today, okay? I'm going way down a road that would take too long and get us off topic. The point of today's show is the one unifying principle for people that are allied or are literally Republicans should be to limit the size and scope of government. I think it's a common understanding with most people out there that involve themselves in Republican politics is that government is too big. It's an undeniable fact at the federal level because we actually overspend, and that actually has consequences. At the state level, you technically have to balance a budget, so you don't overspend per se, but then it's a question of, is this too much money in the government coffers where it could be in the hands of families in the private sector, okay? So let's start with this story right here. This is from the AP. I love talking about the AP news story because there's not a worse propaganda media outlet than the AP. And this is why. The AP's model is to feed news stories, really propaganda, to major newspapers and TV outlets all across the country. And you can see this. You can read the newspaper. You'll see AP News. It's literally written by the AP. They are leftist propagandists. And I think, I'd have to look back, but I think they get USAID money if I remember right. So this is the AP. So I like using the AP to show just how they cover a story, which just happens to be a real story here. Trump administration plans to cut 80,000 employees from Veterans Affairs according to an internal memo. Now, Jesse, you know what they're going to say on this. Oh, he's cutting the benefits of veterans. By the way, I'm a veteran, so I think I can opine on this issue. The Department of Veteran Affairs is planning a reorganization that includes cutting over 80,000 jobs from the sprawling agency that provides health care and other services for millions of veterans, according to an internal memo obtained Wednesday by the Associated Press. The VA's chief of staff, Christopher Sirik, told top-level officials at the agency Tuesday that it had an objective to cut enough employees to return to 2019 staffing levels of just under 400,000. Just that's mind-boggling
right.
to me.
It's nuts to think that there was 500,000 currently that are working for the VA. So, yeah, even 400,000 sounds like an unbelievable number that exists.
Yeah, like when I saw that headline, 80,000 people, I'm just like, wow, holy crap, they're really making cuts. It's like, no, they're just going back to pre-COVID levels. Mm-hmm. Can we unify as Republicans that we should go to pre-COVID levels? Can't we unify on that?
Right. This is like, what, a 15 to 20% cut?
Yeah, did they just say that?
Well, I'm just doing the math in my head.
Yeah. Thought I saw that. Yeah, it is pretty much that.
Mm-hmm.
Math on the fly, right?
Yep.
That would require terminating tens of thousands of employees after the VA expanded during the Biden administration, as well as to cover veterans impacted by burn pits under the 2022 PACT Act. The memo instructs top-level staff to prepare for an agency-wide reorganization in August to resize and tailor to workforce to the mission and revise structure. It also calls for agency officials to work with the White House Department of Government Efficiency to move out aggressively while taking a pragmatic and disciplined approach to the Trump administration goals. government executive first report and the internal memo. Now, they'll find veterans who are going to be like, oh, my God, my cut, the deep cuts, all this kind of stuff. And they're going to say, oh, Trump is against the veterans, blah, 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 blah. Here, I am a veteran. Now, maybe I'm in a little different boat. I mean, I still would be the majority of veterans here, but in a different boat in the sense that I don't think there's any veteran benefits I used or have used since maybe the GI Bill in college. I'm just trying to think about that. I don't think there is. So I'm not speaking firsthand, but I am a veteran, war veteran, that could literally use benefits from the VA. There's a reason a guy like me doesn't even care to look at it, because I know it's a government monstrosity. And so I've always had this position, and I would imagine Trump would have this position, that couldn't we save a ton of money and do a much better job if instead of running this massive government agency, which is to the tune of 500,000 people clearly, that you just cut a check to veterans? Why would you run this hospital system when you could just pay a bill for a veteran to go to a clinic or hospital in their own community? The care is going to be a ton better than I don't think I need to make the argument here how terrible the VA is. Isn't that a known fact at this point? Left and right both know this.
And the veterans know it. The veterans know it
clearly
best.
The veterans know it.
Right.
Actually, we had Rebecca Whiting, is it Whiting?
Right.
Whiting on the show talking about some of those things. Or was that on the after show? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Well, either way, yeah, talking about the horror stories of using the VA. And by the way, they're not in every community.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. This is what's going to happen is you're going to see people losing their minds over the fact that they would make a cut of less than 20% staff for this massive government department.
Yeah, O'Bannon said, please include a calculator in the pre-show prep room. Well, I did the math on the fly here. We're at 16.67%, so that's what the reduction is here. So, and the fact that they were returning it to 2019 levels, that means that it was able to operate efficiently under the Trump administration with the number that they are trying to return to. So this just goes to show how broadly Biden expanded the government if he is simply just trying to return things back to the level that they were when he left office.
Right on. Okay, so let's take the second story here, and then I want to get into what just came out in Minnesota this morning. They had a new report on government forecast, a budget forecast. This is once again, love going to the propagandists at the AP, because it's just so good to see the enemy of truth, which I really believe the AP is the enemy of truth. I don't know when the AP went so bad. I've been following politics for, a couple decades. Mm-hmm. At some point, I noticed it probably in the last couple of years.
Right. They always had the Trump derangement syndrome, but it's at another level.
Well, it's a terrible level. This is Trump wants to dismantle the education department. Here's what it does. I mean, do you remember when the founding fathers said, we shall create this new government, and this federal government shall be seated in Washington, D.C. and collect taxes amongst the people to a tune of trillions of dollars and run our education system from there? No, they didn't say that. They definitely didn't say that. This seems to be a mainstream viewpoint of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Trump might actually do what many of us believe he should have done the first term, but should have been done a long time ago. This is according to AP. President Donald Trump has said he wants his new education chief, Linda McMahon. Oh, that's why you brought up WWE.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, that's the thing. While John Cena and Walter Hudson are turning heel, we got a babyface move by Linda McMahon, finally delivering the want that liberty conservatives have been demanding for years. I mean, even during Obama, I remember there was all this talk of Republicans wanting to, remove the Department of Education. Really, even since its inception, people have been discussing the idea. But I love that Linda McMahon is the one who's going to be bringing it. Actually, I got my Trumpomania shirt on. So Linda McMahon and these liberty fighters are going to be running wild on the federal government, which it's about time that we the people get some control of our government again.
Right on. Jesse, don't ever change. All right. McMahon was confirmed by the Senate on Monday. Oh, and that's another interesting thing.
Party line vote.
Yeah, she came to the address on Tuesday. Well, it wasn't a State of Union address. I don't know why they don't just call it State of Union. It was a State of Union address, but it was Trump's address.
A lot of politicians are calling it a State of the Union,
I know.
Too.
It pretty much is, but it's not. It was technically not.
Right. It was just a joint session of Congress.
Right.
Right.
And that was just right after her confirmation, essentially. McMahon was confirmed by the Senate on Monday, and an executive order to shutter the department could come as soon as this week. Come on, keep giving us these gifts. This is wonderful stuff. McMahon told employees it was the department's final mission to eliminate bureaucratic bloat and turn over the agency's authority to states. Eliminating the department altogether would be a cumbersome task, which likely would require an act of Congress. Well, he could undermine it, though, by the way. Already, the Trump administration has started overhauling much of the department's work. Trump advisor Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency has cut dozens of contracts it dismissed as, quote, woke and wasteful. It gutted the Institute of Education Sciences, which gathers data on the nation's academic progress, and the administration has fired or suspended scores of employees. The agency's main role is financial. Annually, it distributes billions in federal money to colleges and schools and manages the federal student loan portfolio. Closing the department would mean redistributing each of these duties to another agency or not even doing them, right? Well, okay, so first of all, the Department of Education oversees one of the biggest scams in our country, which is higher education. Like, we have to just, at some point, can we just call a spade a spade? Now, there are certain things. I mean, we need colleges and universities. There's no doubt about it, right? There are a lot of things that need that, like engineers and doctors, but a large part of it is one big scam. You literally, this is just repeating the same thing you've heard from other places. But imagine you being a parent, you're saving up for your kids, and you're encouraged to save for your kids, and there's tax incentives doing this to save up for them to go to a university. And let's just imagine you have good American ideals, conservative or just mainstream, and they come out 4 years later with a degree that doesn't really carry a lot of weight. And they don't view and see the world the way that you do. In fact, they do it in a very, very contrary view to the way you see it. This is college. It's what it is today. You know, I mean, listen, Dawson went to college, got a degree in, what is it actually, videography? What's the degree called? Video production?
Media production. You could probably chalk it up to, yeah.
Right. So, like, legitimately learn stuff in your area of expertise. People go to college and they get gender studies degrees. They get, well, I had 2 degrees. Business was one. Poli-sci was a joke. This is a joke. The smartest people I know in politics, like Donald Trump, by the way, smart guy, brilliant guy in politics, they don't have political science degrees. Like, so what a scam this thing is. And I think the real reason it's a scam is because there's this encouragement for people to go to college to go into massive debt, like tens of thousands of dollars, where nowadays, if you bypass the college system, you don't inherit tens of thousands of dollars of debt over 4 years. Actually, what is probably 5 years typical college term, right? That seems like about 5 years nowadays. And instead, you could make equal, if not more money in certain professions that back in the day would have seemed much lower than a college-educated job, like plumbers and electricians. In fact, there is a change, and the gender gap in college is getting wider, by the way. More girls are going to college than guys. Guys are, like, starting to go, I mean, I've seen this firsthand, going to the trade schools. I mean, hell, you could be a truck driver and make more money than some people coming out of a college, right? Truck drivers have been paid in the up like $90,000, $80,000. It's not that hard. I don't think it's that hard to find that job as a trucker these days to make that kind of living. So anyhow, massive scam, but then also going through to K through 12. It just isn't needed, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense for them to tax us and send out to Washington, D.C.
Right. Every single state has a Department of Education. Every single state has the ability to handle this on their own. And we have to keep in mind that there's all of these federal hurdles and costs and regulations that the states are forced to deal with currently. When you don't have to deal with those hurdles, you're able to create your own plan. You're able to have more leeway on those regards. So giving the states more power will actually save money, and rather than having the federal government trying to determine that for us. And back on the Linda McMahon thing, you know, I noticed during her confirmation hearing, she had Triple H behind her. And, you know, he took a sip of water at one point, and people might not know, but he's got this signature move where when he enters into the ring, he leans up against the ropes and spits all the water out while flexing. And so, you know, a lot of people thought that, you know, he had some instincts almost kick in when he was drinking some water. But I saw that Tucker 91 says, I hope the Linda tombstone pile drives the Department of Education into a grave in a buried alive match. And, I'm 100% down with that. I think that if Linda McMahon, Linda McMahon needs to abolish this Department of Education. She needs to restore the power to the states where it belongs and restore our government down to its proper size. And if you're not down with that, I only got 2 words for you. Suck it. In the words of DX, which, it just goes to show that this is a massive moment for us. And I hope Linda McMahon is the person for the job, that she's going to finish what conservatives have been demanding for years. She was almost going to be the Department of Commerce secretary, but, if her legacy is going to be abolishing the Department of Education, that's a massive win for conservatives.
Okay, now I can get all the Democrats in line with our belief in eliminating the Department of Education. Okay, you ready for it? If they don't want to support eliminating the Department of Education, I think Linda McMahon should mandate conservative curriculum in all K through 12 and college universities.
Yeah.
You got a problem with that?
Then, yeah, exactly. That'd be the way to force it.
I'm just curious. Do you have a problem? Because, listen, that's the problem conservatives have with the Department of Education, in the sense that there's mandates coming from the federal government into the states, and they have no right to do it. So if you don't agree with us on that principle, what happens if those mandates are things that you don't like? Right? You see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is the overall argument. Like, when leftists,
right, don't give the government power that you wouldn't want,
yes,
that you wouldn't want abused against you.
Yes, when they allow Biden to do certain things, and it's like, yes, but guys, what if Donald Trump gets into power, who you literally argue is a dictator? Why would you give more power to the presidency? You see, I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat in charge. I don't want them having that much power. I actually have problems with a lot of what Trump is doing through executive orders. But I actually want to learn more about what the heck he's talking about in legal protest. I think I might know what he's doing. The one thing I've learned this second term is I'd like to give Trump the benefit of doubt on a lot of stuff, right? But illegal protest, like what are you saying here? Are you saying because they're doing unlawful activity that spurs out of a protest? Because there shouldn't be illegal protests. You should be allowed to protest. So it's like
I just
he
he's
can do wrong.
Riots, riots and looting,
right.
and
So
whatnot.
that's what I'm saying is, like, I almost think they're just using the wrong language, right?
Right.
Because you should be able to protest. You can't riot. You can't.
And he tries to put things simply, flatly, and just as it is.
Yeah.
So sometimes he misses some extra context that we'd like, but I think we all know what he's generally trying to say.
Well, once again, this second term, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's definitely shown that he's doing things different. That first term, there was reasons to actually second guess him. But my point here is, if you're giving power to Biden, that power is not going to stay with your guy. It's going to go to another guy. So why don't you come to our viewpoint and just take the power away from these dudes, right? That's my viewpoint on federal government. Stop giving them power. Stop taking money out of the hands of the people and sending it out to Washington, D.C. and letting it trickle back through the system. That's the wrong thing. If you don't like a dictator like Trump, then let's unify on the fact that Washington, D.C. should shrink. But you don't want that. You just rather do everything you can to ignore the good by Trump, which was clear on Tuesday night's address, and fund the behemoth that's this bureaucracy that doesn't seem to be answerable to anyone, including Donald Trump. That's your solution for prosperity. That's a terrible solution, by the way. And that will also be used against you in the future. Actually, it kind of already is. But luckily, the left actually had 4 years where the lawfare was just used against the Republicans and conservatives. But don't think that's not going to turn around. You know how you could stop lawfare? You defund the government. Oh, let's go to Minnesota here. This was just...
and one quick comment. I see Becky Hack says states gave up their rights when they gave in to the ESSA, which the ESSA is Every Student Succeeds Act, which requires states to have to go through the federal government when improving their curriculum. And
right.
Just as we see, how incompetent the federal government is, looking at Congress, looking at who these politicians are, these are definitely not the people that we want in charge of education. So, I totally agree with what Becky Hack is saying in that comment.
Okay, let's go to Minnesota. This was just released here, actually over the noon o'clock hour. The state economist released the budget forecast, and Dawson. You see those 3 links in the middle? Click on the bottom one. Let's just go through that. So I haven't looked at this because it came out just before the show, but I do know the numbers. So let's scroll down. This is they do a forecast in November, which gets released in December. And then they do a forecast in February, which gets released in March. I don't know why. Stop right there. I don't know why you don't just call that the December and the March forecast, but apparently because the work gets done in February or November and February, that's what they call it. So anyhow, this is the February forecast, which was just released today. Scroll up to the one slide above that, Dawson. There you go. So in the November forecast, they were projecting for the upcoming biennium. That's how our state government does budgets, biennium. That we would have you see where it says budgetary balance 616. So that said we had a $616 billion surplus. And this is what's being planned on right now. The Democrats and Republicans are planning the next 2 years. It got revised down in the February forecast, that second column, to $456 billion. So there's less resources coming in. Now that's a lot of reasons for that. And by the way, none of this is locked in. You know, they have to, this is like the baseline expenditures. This is what's planned to be spent, but it doesn't get spent until they actually appropriate the money. All right. So that is what they're planning. Now scroll down because the actual budget deficit. Oh, that works. Okay. So it looks like you see where it says on that far right there, the yellow projected budget deficit, the next biennium. So this is fiscal year 28 and 29. That's going to be $6 trillion. See, this is what happens when you go from federal to state. $6 billion. So it's $6 billion budget deficit. Now, this is going to be the lead conversation when Republicans and Democrats in a tied Minnesota House and in the Senate with one majority. And then, of course, we got terrible Governor Walz in charge of the executive branch. This is going to be the big conversation. Now, let's go back up to the slide right before that. Before we go any further, you see where it says budget reserve and cash flow, and it says $3.5 billion. Okay, these are in millions, so it's technically 3,527 million, which is 3.5 billion. That means the government. Let's just give $500 million needed for a cash flow account. They roughly got $3 billion of your money just sitting in a rainy day fund, and that thing has been growing since pre-COVID. They like the biggest rainy day, a pandemic, and they never even use this money. So they literally have confiscated $3 billion from you. But these are the numbers that they're going to be used as they craft this budget. Now, here's my question, Jesse, and you follow this stuff maybe even a little bit more than I do. What is the Republicans' budget proposal in this legislative session?
I haven't seen one. And it seems as if, at least on the Health and Human Services, it seems as if they are caving to the Walz policy, and it seems as if they're just going to be moving forward with the Walz budget. And so, unless these other committees are proposing their own Republican-led budgets, which they should have passed already, since they haven't done that, and considering that the special election is coming up very quickly, which is most likely going to go to the Democrats, the Republicans need to get their act together and start proposing some budgets, because otherwise you're going to be stuck dealing with Democrat budgets introduced by Walz and supported by all of the radical Democrats in the legislature.
This is what's confusing to me is why don't Republicans in Minnesota come out with like a bold proposal where you cut government, which is what you guys allegedly believe in. I know most of them don't, okay? But Walter Hudson says they're all good people. So Of course they aren't lying to us about cutting government, right? They couldn't be possibly just telling us that on campaign season and not doing it up at the Capitol. But why don't they propose massive cuts to government, especially after what Walz and the Democrats just screw it to, and then introduce a huge tax cut plan? Trump's actually doing it. Now, he's doing it in an irresponsible way because it doesn't seem like it's going to get offset at this point by expenditures. But my God, at least he understands the concept here and the fact that what's really popular with people is giving them their money back. And that's what we should do, especially in the state of Minnesota, when we had a $20 billion budget surplus and Tim Walz and the Democrats spend it all, right? All right, so I want to pull this up, Dawson. Let's go to the A7. A7. This is CBS doing some polling from Trump's address to Congress. This is fascinating. Have you guys seen this? Let's scroll down here. So they've got a bunch of different things. So first of all, views of Trump's speech, 76% approval, 23% disapproval by the people that watch it. Now, you're probably wondering who's watching the speech. They do account for that. Can you scroll down? It's going to be, I think, the third one. There you go. So of the people watching it, 51% identified as Republican. Understandable. All right. Listen, I don't like these speeches usually. They're bullshit. But I was like, man, what's Trump going to talk about tonight? I'm kind of curious, you know? So I watched. Then you got 27%.
I was going to say, maybe the Democrats watch more when the Democrat is president, but I think when Joe Biden was up there, I mean, the Republicans were watching just as much to, see what kind of mistakes he was going to be making.
Yeah, that was about the only reason I'd watch, and then I still lost.
Right, but I guess maybe during the Obama era, these numbers would probably be reversed.
Yes, correct, yeah. All right, so independents, 27%, and Democrats only make up 20%. So you can kind of understand that approval being so high. It's not like he just went over a bunch of Democrats, but it's still a pretty good faction of that is independents, right? And so even amongst his base, I guess that's another part of the story, is the base showed support. Now go to the chart above that, Doss. I'm trying to remember which one that was. All right, time Trump spent on issues you care about. This is fascinating. 63% said a lot, 28% said a little, and then 9% none at all. So I guess 10% Democrats probably thought he'd still spent time. Maybe they disagreed, but time on things that they cared about. All right, let's go to the fourth one here. The reason I'm bringing all this stuff out is I think you can be rewarded by the people if you take bold moves. Speech made you feel 68% hopeful, 54% proud, 20 people being worried, 27%. I mean, I'm sure they had a list of things there, and so you could vote twice on this. And then angry, 16%. All right, in speech, Trump was, amongst watchers, presidential, 74%. By the way, this has become a big conversation right now. The Democrats shitting the bed. You know how we talked about this on the show? James Carville's predicting that there's going to be this implosion in MAGA universe and with Trump. Right now, it's not looking like that. The implosion, and Fetterman just tweeted out basically reiterating this point, is that the Democrats have no leader right now. They are looking really bad to the people. El Presidente had a great tweet about how ridiculous they look, and that's how people are viewing this, how dumb they look by just holding up these signs and sneering, all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about this in show prep.
The Democrats were the ones that were saying how unbecoming of Marjorie Taylor Greene to yell during Biden's speech, and then there they are making a mockery of the joint speech by having all of these signs out and whatnot. So they're not even truly caring about the institution, because if they cared about the institution, they'd have a little bit more respect for the speech.
Right. Which, by the way, I don't really care about that stuff. The only thing is...
Right. The only reason I bring it up is to prove that these Democrats are hypocrites and they don't actually mean what they say.
Well, yeah. And, of course, Congressional Republicans are hypocrites, too. These guys, it's a game up there. It's WWE. Right. The point I'm trying to make is Trump was smart. So instead of feeding into what these guys are doing, he was quiet. He let the order come back to the House floor. So it looked more like he was presidential. Go back to that graph there. So he came across very presidential, 74% entertaining. Those two things usually aren't the same. Those don't live together usually.
Right.
71% inspiring. Right? There's only 51% Republican respondents, so that's important to understand. 62% unifying. I don't know if I would have said unifying on that. It doesn't really match with 46% said divisive. That's actually an interesting one. It's like you have it should be 38% divisive, and everyone weighed in on he's either unifying or divisive, but he was clearly divisive, which was entertaining. Maybe I guess you could live with like he's trying to unify people towards this thing while still being divisive. I guess I could see why you look at it. Maybe they're not complete opposites. Let's go to some of the more things that they found in this poll. Scroll down there, Dawson. Does Trump have a clear plan for inflation? 68% said yes. 32% said no. Next one. Like Trump's plan for waste in government spending, 77% said yes, 23% said dislike. And by the way, on Ukraine, 73% support, 27% dislike. And that's what we did. We had Scott Horton on the show on Tuesday. I thought that was fascinating. That's actually one of the big reasons I watched it. But waste in government spending, 77% of the people liked it. Now, this is the thing. Let's go to the A8. This is a very interesting thing that popped up on my Twitter feed last night. This is the party of Trump. What are those people called that? Is it Principles First? Is that the one that's like the anti-Trump group?
The Lincoln, the Lincoln Foundation.
Yeah, but there's like it's called Principles First, I think.
Maybe there is another one. I don't know if I know them offhand.
Yeah. All right. So it says Republicans say they are primarily supporters of Donald Trump rather than the Republican Party by a 30-point margin. Look at that. I mean, it's so crazy to see those numbers. And by the way, you could see how they crisscross because at some point, Donald Trump had competitors in the primary. You could see the yellow, which is support for Trump, versus red for the Republican Party. I mean, look, Walter Hudson could say whatever he wants to say and lie about us all day long, but it's not like you can attribute this to us. We understood this. We understand the Republican Party has a brand problem. If you want to stand behind Republicans can't do wrong, you are in a minority right now. Only 33% of Republicans view the party higher than Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. That's great, in my opinion. Now, that's a lot of responsibility for Donald Trump. He needs to show he deserves that kind of approval. From what I'm seeing, and I could pick apart a lot of things I don't agree with him on, but he is a seismic shift in the political ground out in Washington, D.C., and the status quo and the deep swamp, the deep state doesn't want it, and that's what makes me so supportive of him, his second presidency in general. Once again, not agreeing with everything he does, but because of the seismic shift, to me, I have to be very supportive of him in general. Now, with that being said...
Right, the alternative is Pocahontas. The alternative is to say that we want nonstop funding for a war that's never going to end and that Ukraine is never going to win. So Trump is the only one that has the ability in this moment to, fulfill on all of these promises. And like you're saying, he's unifying the Republican Party more and more every single day. There hasn't been any blowback or anything really yet. So Trump has... Well, like you're saying, the Democrats are falling apart. They are looking optically terrible to the average viewer, even to the type of person that doesn't follow politics very closely. They see, the Democrats wouldn't stand up and clap for a kid with cancer. They optically look terrible at this moment, and by doing that, they're benefiting Trump. Honestly, Trump supporters are extremely lucky for the opponents that we have, because if we had smart opponents, we'd be in a whole different scenario. But these people are so incompetent, so angry, so bitter, and all of them just look like people who need to retire.
Well, that's something that I've noticed after the last election. This is the first one I actually paid attention in, and there's no, Democrats aren't anything really. Like, when you think of a Republican, you think a red hat, you think husband and a wife, you think trucks, you think this, that, da-da-da-da. Democrats don't have anything like that. There's no personality there, so they're going to have to come up with something before the next election, or else it's going to be just
they're trying to be everything to all these different minority groups, all to the LGBTQ. And meanwhile, you don't stand for anything when you do all of that because, like you're saying, they're afraid to stand on their own and have, go against the grain of their own party in any regard.
Yeah.
Well, seeing this void is someone who's a political chameleon, Gavin Newsom. Did you see he did Charlie Kirk?
No, but I saw he's starting a podcast.
He did Charlie Kirk the other day, and I would imagine he does more. He even flatters Charlie Kirk by saying his son is a big fan of Charlie Kirk and was so excited. I'm like, dude, Gavin Newsom is such a piece of shit scumbag. Yeah. He's like so empty as a human. But he is.
I think the Democrats are seeing that too. He's had a couple of moments in some awkward moments on TV and in interviews and whatnot. And even the Democrats are starting to say, I think this guy's a phony. I don't think that this guy's actually what we're looking for.
Have we ever showed him and Adam Carolla on this show? Have you ever seen this clip?
Yeah, we did show it. Maybe like a year or two ago. But yeah, we watched it a while back.
Everything you need to know about Gavin Newsom. It's like 10 years ago, and Adam Carolla. I just Google Gavin Newsom, Adam Carolla. It's worth watching. I watch it probably once a month.
10 years ago? You watch this thing once a month, and it's from 10 years ago?
Do you not know what I'm talking about?
No.
All right. Look it up right now. Just YouTube. Gavin Newsom, Adam Carolla. It's worth watching. If you want to know who Gavin Newsom is, he is a slick politician.
It was about the homeless, right?
No, it's about minority groups, not basically being being poor, and he singles out the two groups, and Adam Carolla dismantles him. The reason I bring it up is 10 years ago because I don't think Adam Carolla was like really doing much in politics before then. Scroll down, keep going. How long is it? Oh, okay, right there. That's it right there. Watch this. This is great.
I want everybody to plan. Look down the road 6 months. Yes, your husband lost his job. That's why you need to sock away some money when he's gainfully employed. Yes, they foreclosed on your home. That's why you need to have a network, a community, friends, family members, money put away.
But think about it,
Don't have the kids.
Half of African Americans in the state of California, roughly half of Latino families have no access to a checking account or an ATM. Things we take for granted. They don't have a checking account.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to sock those things away.
Why do we have them?
A lot of different reasons, but roughly half those families don't. Where do they
Why
end
do
up?
Armenians have them?
But where they end up is in check cashing places.
But I want to know why those groups. Why those two groups don't have access?
Well, a lot of it just happens to be that we can talk about.
Flawed?
This. No, they're hardly flawed, but they're struggling.
Genetically
Folks are making
flawed.
their word. Hardly, not absolutely.
But okay, do Asians have this problem?
I mean, a lot of communities have. A lot of whites have these problems.
Oh,
but
so that's not just black and Hispanic.
No, but I'm
why did you bring up black and Hispanic?
Because the magnitude is ominous.
But why so many of them?
It just happens to be the magnitude.
That's the way God planned it?
Not at all.
Well, what happened to them?
There are a lot of issues, and that the communities are struggling. A lot
Why
of
are they
immigrants.
struggling?
A lot of different reasons. Lack of
Hispanics
opportunity.
have been here. Blacks have been here longer than we've been here.
Well, we can surmise.
What about Asians? They were put in internment camps.
Yeah, in fact, it all initiated out of San Francisco.
All right.
The Chinese Exclusion Act came out of progressive San Francisco.
Are they the check cashing places?
A lot of Asians certainly do.
Oh, so why don't you conclude them?
The only reason why is the magnitude of
there's
the problem.
So many more.
The magnitude in percentage
But there's
terms
no way to figure out how that happened.
Africa. We could talk about it. You know what I'm dealing with? I don't want to have a sociological debate.
Sure, why would you?
No, here's why.
Why would you want to do that? Because the person from the Times wouldn't write good things about you if you did that.
No, that's not the case.
Right,
Because I
that's
want to get that.
And I don't think Adam has really got a point here other than just the fact I hear this uttered by politicians. Well, why is it? You just want to utter this thing. Well, is there a reason for it? And they're what are you trying to say? Well, I think the real reason here is the left doesn't want to solve those issues. They want the voting base, and they want to continue empathizing with these people, even though they're the reason that they're still in that predicament. It just, to me, what's so revealing from that is he just keeps rambling. There's no deep thought to it. He's just I am going to find the next way to continue a conversation, even though I'm never going to have to address this thing. And good on Adam Carolla for going back to it.
That's called the weave. It's called the weave.
He's weaving like there's no tomorrow, right? And it's so interesting because that's who he is as a politician. I'd almost rather you take a shot at answering it and maybe getting it wrong and learning from it. But I love it. He's weaving and not actually addressing it because guess what? You don't have any deep thoughts. You just literally are a political monster, and that's what he's doing. He's going to do center-right media because he recognizes this void in the Democrat Party. And by the way, he's been doing this actually for the last couple of years because I'm really supporting of Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris, but it's you're really building up your name. Many people thought he was trying
when
to
he said,
position
I'm putting out this podcast, we're going to be talking about all the things that are concerning people most. Doge, he starts talking about all these other federal issues. It's aren't you the governor of California? Aren't people concerned about the fires of California?
Or
Shouldn't you be talking about
deficit?
That? Right, exactly. I mean, there's a million issues for California, and he's supposedly the governor, but he's too busy talking with Charlie Kirk and trying to expand his own name recognition. It shows that he's all about himself, and he doesn't actually care about the issues. We'll have to see if Kamala Harris is actually going to run for governor after him. But she could be so bad and following Gavin Newsom that California could even go Republican if the Republicans step up to the plate, put up a good candidate. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He ran for L.A. mayor. So they got some options on the table. And if the Democrats are dumb enough to put up Kamala Harris, we might just see California flip. The Democrats are so far gone.
She's going to take the Nixon route? because Nixon
Yeah,
lost
right.
in '68. Then he ran for governor, became governor of California, and then ran again for president and
Right.
won.
Yeah, and then we'll impeach her.
Yeah, sorry,
Yep.
sorry. He ran in 1960. Totally got that wrong. 1960, ran for governor, became California's governor, then ran again.
Yeah,
and
2
won
years
the
later
presidency
than
in
68. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Quick
Yeah.
question, Jake.
Interesting. And was a senator, by the way, before that, right? Just like Kamala. It's interesting. What's going on?
Shannon is wondering where we put all that popcorn.
Oh, it's in the
That's
prop room.
Is it somewhere specific?
What does
that-
she need? She needs to make.
Apparently,
popcorn
they're
right?
having a big old party over there. I don't know why.
in the
but-
back room right now.
No. In the.
Where's
BOCC.
Shannon at? Just tell her to come here.
Okay.
What's the hang?
Shannon.
All right, I want to finish on this one, and then we'll go to the next subject. The A5. So where I'm going with all this stuff is, I think it's fairly obvious that Trump is doing something that's actually being rewarded by the people. He's taking a bold stance on cutting government, and I truly do believe people will follow. And leave it to Thomas Massey, the one congressman that literally wants to tell you how it is on spending, the biggest problem, right? Spending in Washington, D.C. And he writes, I'll vote against a clean CR that funds everything in 2025 at 2024 levels because, number one, Speaker Johnson isn't following the provision in law that would have cut everything by 1% if the CR extended past April. Number two, is that Shannon?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Number two, we should not fund the waste, fraud, and abuse that DOJ has found. Number three, these are supposed to be 12 separate bills. Number four, we were told that the CR in December that got us to March would allow us to prioritize Trump's agenda this March using the checkbook. And I think he posted this. Yes, this was this was right before Trump's speech, but he obviously knew it. Shannon, it's just in the prop room.
What?
It's in a box in the prop room.
Is that the prop room?
Yeah, but go around the other side because we're live on air. There you go. That's how things go here. It's a hang.
It's a hang.
It's our popcorn machine maker. Dale wanted a popcorn machine maker. Dale gets what he
We
wants,
have
right?
a lot of popcorn.
Right, exactly. We've used it a couple times.
We need to use it more. I
No,
think-
we don't. I don't need to eat popcorn all day long.
I think about just firing it up every so often just for fun.
Yeah, well, it'd get a lot of people's attention. All right, let's move on to the next subject. Otter Tail County. This is brought to you by Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy home or sell home, give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. What's going on in Otter Tail County, Jesse?
Yeah, Dawson, let's go ahead and pull up that story. And because this is a massive issue that, like I had said at the beginning of the show, that Otter Tail patriots have been forced to endure the brunt of unfair political practices, and the Rhino establishment has gone after them harder than just about any other BPOU that exists. So CD7, who is taking control over the Otter Tail Convention, is banning Otter Tail delegates from participating in their own convention. So Otter Tail County patriots have been banned from participating in the following conventions: 2023 CD7, 2023 Otter Tail County, 2024 Otter Tail County, 2024 CD7, and the 2024 State Convention. So they have been treated unfairly, and now they are being banned from the 2025 Otter Tail County Convention and the CD7 Convention again. According to local patriots, 62 Otter Tail County Republicans were targeted and allegedly received one of the two following emails that disqualified them from participating in these conventions. So you will see the emails listed there. They both come from Tiffany Lymaster Knott, who is working with who is a member of CD7. I believe she's the deputy chair. And there's these two emails that have been sent out to people. One of them saying the reason that they are not invited to the Otter Tail Convention, the reason for the actions were such that the MNGOP had to spend time and resources to send you a cease and desist letter to stop working against you at the BPOU, and then also because they said that people did not agree to the principles of the Republican Party or the Otter Tail County bylaws, even though those were fake forms that were added to the caucus list by the establishment to try to prevent people from signing into it.
By the way, just think about that second one. What about the politicians who vote against the party platform all the time, right?
Right.
The principles of it. And the first one, it's like, what if using that rationale? What if, and in this case, it's true, the Otter Tail County BPOU, which is their local county unit. What if it's corrupt?
Yeah.
What if it's corrupt? So you can't work against corruption? Like, Shouldn't this be the party against corruption?
Right, exactly. So as you see above, the emails come from CD7 Deputy Chair Tiffany Lymaster Knott. Otter Tail County should be allowed to operate on its own without other party units interfering and manipulating the delegation. However, the MNGOP State Executive Committee unfortunately voted unanimously to give control of the Otter Tail County Convention to Rhino CD7 leadership. You will note above that Rhino Party lawyer Reed LeBeau used cease and desist threats against 5 of the 10 BPOU executive board members last year for simply fighting corruption in their own BPOU, and now they are being banned for the same reason. So if you speak up and you fight, they're going to ban you from participating in the Republican Party. Considering CD7's Rhino control, which has included their bans of duly elected Otter Tail County delegates from previous conventions, they are obviously not a neutral source to solve this Otter Tail issue. In addition, CD7 Chair Craig Bishop is a paid staffer for Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach, which is a massive conflict of interest, which became extremely evident last year as conservative Steve Boyd challenged Fischbach for the GOP endorsement, and his Otter Tail County supporters were banned from participating in that event. Like in previous conventions, CD7 is using the 2022 delegate list instead of the 2024 list. This is faulty from the jump, but to make matters worse, Otter Tail County locals tell A. Farrell that the Rhino chair of Otter Tail, Vance Bachman, has admitted to adding names of people who did not attend the caucus to the 2022 list. So the establishment is adding people and stacking the deck by removing patriots and replacing them with liberal rhinos. Reportedly, individuals who filled out forms during the 2022 caucus documents and forms exactly the same as someone else have received different emails from CD7, meaning that some have been allowed to participate while others are being banned. We must also bear in mind that the Otter Tail County delegates were presented with additional crony forms that were not in line with the documents required by the MNGOP Constitution and bylaws. So with all of the surrounding corruption, Otter Tail County has now been postponed by CD7. While it was scheduled to take place this Saturday, March 8th, it has been tentatively rescheduled for March 22nd. Considering that the CD7 convention will take place on the 29th, time is of the essence. And if Otter Tail County is not allowed to meet before that date, they would not have any duly elected representation at the CD7 convention, or even worse, their spots are given up to rhinos. The CD7 convention also holds high-stakes leadership elections, which includes the CD7 chair race between Mr. Conflict of Interest Craig Bishop and grassroots conservative Brett Bussman. Considering that Bussman has been a BPOU chair, former candidate for the MNGOP, and a former GOP-endorsed Senate candidate, he could garner some major support. And if the Otter Tail County delegates are blocked from voting on this key leadership race, the establishment is given a massive advantage. And sources tell A. Farrell that a certain number of the 62 or so people who received an email banning their participation have since been re-allowed, but there will still be dozens of disenfranchised patriots. One disenfranchised Otter Tail County patriot and duly elected delegate, Eric Hansen, expressed some of his frustrations that he and other grassroots conservatives have been forced to endure. This came in the form of a response to an MNGOP fundraise mailer, which hopefully will reach the party leadership and force an intervention. And we don't need to go into all of this. I just like to include it in there because Eric Hansen is a good patriot who is standing up to the party leadership and saying, how can you ask me for money when the party is busy screwing me over at the local level? So Action for Liberty will continue to give a voice to the grassroots conservatives of Otter Tail County that have been trampled on by the establishment. The so-called Party of Election Integrity must ensure election integrity within their own party business because conservatives have been fed up with being disenfranchised and dismissed. Grassroots conservatives must be heard loud and clear, and the corruption must end now. Otter Tail County has faced the brunt of it, and now is the time for the MNGOP to do the right thing. The fact that the executive committee said that CD7 should be in charge of it, they need to retract that decision because obviously CD7 has not been trustworthy actors and they haven't been fair in dealing with this issue at all. They should not be able to run the Otter Tail County Convention. The locals should be doing it with someone who is going to be a fair and neutral arbiter to serve as the parliamentarian and to also serve as the chair and to serve for the credentialing. And in the credentialing, they must use the 2024 list, not the 2022 list.
Andy Parrish says, I kind of want Jesse to read me bedtime stories. His voice is so relaxing. Like Jesse's like, and that's when Goldilocks ate the porridge of the 3 bears.
Yeah.
I'm onto this thing. I'm onto her. That's very good, man. Like, no one would report on this kind of stuff. This is the frustration I used to have.
Right, we're the only ones. I mean,
Right.
you don't have any other groups in Minnesota who are willing to stick up for the Otter Tail people, and especially being as hardcore as we are. So it is sad that, everybody else leaves these people out to dry.
Yeah.
And they don't deserve it at all. They did nothing wrong. The only issue with it that they did was that they were too conservative for the Republican Party, for the rhinos in charge. That's not a problem by me. I say you're allowed to be as conservative as you want to be in the Republican Party.
And you got to understand, these are like total MAGA people, like totally big Trump supporters. Just so you know, like, these are the people that, like, literally the party should be going, yeah, we need this big tent, right? When they say big tent, they don't really refer to these people as part of the big tent.
Right. They mean liberals. we want the liberals to vote
They
for
want the
us.
log cabin.
Rather than stand for anything, let's get the liberals to vote for us. Yeah, that seems
We need the
to have
pro-choice
worked out.
Republicans in the big tent. We can't have these people in the big tent. All right, speaking of big tent, is the tent big enough to have David Hand as governor? This last segment's brought to you by John Galt Mortgage Company. If you're looking to buy a home outside of Minnesota or in Minnesota, either one, they're licensed in most states at this point. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com. What is this story, Jesse? Is this true? Is he really?
Well, according to the most credible Star Tribune, it's something. So let's go ahead and pull up the C1 Dawson. We can check out this post by a Star Tribune reporter, which posted this on X, which says, new from this morning's Hot Dish newsletter, former MNGOP chair David Hand told me he is considering a run for governor in 2026. So the guy who couldn't even get the party insiders, the people that should have his back more than anybody, he couldn't even get half of the party insiders to reelect him for chair. He's now trying to fail up. He's trying to get a promotion after destroying the MNGOP, after all of the fraud that was going on with the 1972 Wyoming Corporation, and the fact that he's left the MNGOP broke. Is that the kind of thing
And
that we want our
computers?
state? Right.
Scrub computers.
He pulled a Hillary Clinton, and So and we see exactly how the books are looking now with Tim Walz in charge.
We should call him
We're
Hillary
going to be
Hand.
having a deficit. Do we think that David Hand is going to
Hillary
be a
Hand.
fiscal conservative? Of course not. So Dawson, let's go ahead and pull up, or maybe you should just show people that you're typing in davidhand.com, and that way people can know that you're going directly to davidhand.com.
davidhand.com.
Hann.
If you type in David Hand.
What is that? It brings you to Action for Liberty. I wonder who put that together. It's great to see that he has, I guess maybe now embraced liberty, but in truth, it's such a joke that David Hand would even think about running for governor. I hope he does, because it would be a perfect opportunity to expose him further and let people know exactly what kind of failure he is. He's trying to stay relevant. That's the only reason he would try to run for governor, but he has absolutely zero chance of winning that primary, and he'd have an even smaller chance of beating Tim Walz, because there is no way that he would be able to unify the conservatives around him.
No, he's so corrupt. Like, I didn't have a beef with Hand when he first took over the GOP. I thought he was not that great of a senator. And Andy's reminding us that Hand actually ran for governor in 2010, but I think he didn't place hardly then. It was Seifert and Emmer in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, like, Hand is so bad at politics, and he's so corrupt. I guess, I don't think he's probably just, what he's doing is wanting to stay relevant and fed his name, right? There's no way he's thinking that way.
I would hope not, but I mean, it would be so entertaining if he were to do it, because he's such a joke.
Yeah.
Such a joke. And, so some of the other names who have put their names out there in some
Phil
capacity.
candidates, breaking news. Wednesday, Walter pledges his full support.
Yeah. Yep. So Zach Duckworth, Rhino Senator Zach Duckworth, has also made a post saying that, I don't want to run for Senate, but the Minnesota governor's mansion looks open. So he
said that?
He said something like that on Twitter. So Zach Duckworth, which is such a joke. If he were to get in, there's nothing unique about him. Kendall Qualls is thinking about getting into the governor race as well. That's reported out there. Scott Jensen, which he's obviously been out there in the media, and it's been talked about. I think it's pretty likely that Scott Jensen is going to be running again. Jim Schultz has also, there's been some rumors and talk about him. Currently, there's only 2 people in the Republican primary running for governor, Brad Kohler, who we've had on the show before, and Phil Parrish. I'd hate to say it, but I don't think either of them are serious. And then we also previously showed Chris Seymour, who was running for Senate at the time that we pulled up his Facebook page. This guy's now an independent governor candidate, so there is at least going to be one person running as a third party, it seems, if he can gather the signatures and whatnot. But I think that the GOP primary still has a lot to flesh out for this governor race, but the GOP has an opportunity to really take out Walz, because when he became the VP candidate, I had all kinds of Minnesotans coming to me and saying, I didn't know all this about Walz. I didn't know about the DUI. I didn't know about this and this and this. So a lot of these stories didn't come out to the to most people until he had run for VP. So
well, even we didn't know the comment he made about the weapon I carried in war. We never saw that clip until he ran for lieutenant or for
right, but you know,
VP.
a lot of people didn't know China Walz. A lot of people didn't know that he was.
You of course did. You
right, but I'm just saying
about that a lot.
now that it's out there in people's minds a little bit more. Oh, hold on, we got a $5 Rumble rant. O'Bannon says, "Mord for governor." That's not a bad idea. I wouldn't mind seeing Eric Mortensen get in that. And could you imagine a debate between David Hand and Eric Mortensen? I think that would be...
Well, just think about this. Walter already spends every day talking about Action for Liberty, who's apparently irrelevant, but yet he spends all day talking about him.
Yeah.
Imagine if Mort ran for governor.
Yeah.
I think that would blow his mind up. You know. By the way, Walter, keep tweeting out there. That's you're doing honest work there. That's good stuff. Keep tweeting. Like I actually see he responds to people on Twitter too. He gets into debates on Twitter. Like, didn't most of us learn that lesson like 10 years ago? That's not a good idea. I keep calling Twitter X. Sorry, X.
Twitter is right.
What's that?
Twitter is basically right.
I know, but it's been a year now, so most people are starting to use it because it's like, well, this was just brought up on Joe Rogan with Elon Musk. You know what? That's the post show. I have something I want to talk about. If you haven't seen Musk and Rogan, there's something that's burning in my heart to talk about. By the way, you also had that conspiracy guy, Ian Carroll. Is that his name? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I've heard of him, yeah.
Mustache dude. Yeah, fascinating thing. So I wasn't able to listen to the Musk one for almost like a week. And then Bill Murray came out on Saturday. And then Ian Carroll comes out yesterday, and I'm like, oh, my God, I want to listen to these. And luckily, I was able to schedule some work in greater Minnesota.
Oh, you're saying that Joe Rogan just had him on, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that it existed. I don't know much about him, though.
Yeah. Finally, I had some windshield time, so luckily I was able to do it. But I got a thought on something I heard Elon say that I really want to discuss. So we're going to do that in the post show. If you're a premium subscriber, you know what to do. 1 minute after we're done on here, we're going to go to the post show. Actually, 1 minute and a half. I need to go grab my coffee. I forgot it for a set, and my mouth is getting. I need some coffee. I'll put it that way. So I want to talk about that. A couple other things I want to talk about in the post show. If you're not a premium subscriber, which helps grow the show, along with like O'Bannon's Rumble Rant. By the way, right there in the fourth quarter, there almost ended there. Came in at the last minute. So that's another way to support the show is being a monthly subscriber. $8 a month goes to a lot of things that we're doing in the show. Or you could do 1 year, $88. You get a month off, which is really cool. So we'll be live in a minute and a half on the post show. Thank you to our great sponsors, Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. If you're buying a home, go to the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company. Go to johngaltmortgage.com, and brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Oh, did I say go to truthhurtsnews.com, click on support if you want to be a monthly subscriber, or on Rumble, click on join. We'll be live in... Oh, there's another thing I want to talk about. Don't let me forget about debating an anti-Trump libertarian. Don't let me forget that. I want to get your input in the post show on that. And that might be a special Sunday show. All right. So 2 topics for sure that I want to talk about. So if you want to participate in that conversation, we'll be live on Locals in a minute and a half. For everyone else, we'll be back on Tuesday. Take care.